Remember one time, without consulting our intelligence as part of protocol, remember when the United States government, the embassy reported that there might be explosive or bombs somewhere in Senton or one of the suburbs?
Yes.
There is a racial war that is coming here. It's not only a racial war, it's also a class war. For America to be what it is today, for it to have the atomic bomb and the nuclear bombs it has, is all the resources taken from Africa. Our ancestors' lives right up to today. Everything. So is Europe. They repeatedly tell a lie until it becomes a truth. And we think this is a game. That's why Africans must unite. All his talks that he's doing is to protect stolen.
Doesn't he live in a new South Africa?
Sorry? What's new about South Africa? When the black majority, we still don't hold the commanding heights of the economy. Well, what's new about South Africa? There was never something new. We were played big time. You must understand that Donald Trump is an immigrant. America is ruled by immigrants. The real natives of America, they were done away with. Just like you saw in Gaza, like you see in the DRC. I want to say, in not more than 20 years, there will be a war in this country. There will be a rise. And black majority, prepare for that, especially the youth. Have the mental power, intellectual power, spiritual power, and unite with all Africans because it is coming. Hello to all viewers. My name is Dr. Maluse Mngube. I'm guest number 014. To all viewers and listeners, I want to emphasize that it is very important for you to listen or to watch this conversation till the end in order to avoid missing information, pieces and puzzles that connect to form the central objective of this conversation today. Through all the channels, this content will be distributed via. May this conversation reach both the ears of the expert and the non-expert in this subject and topics discussed between myself and the host today. Thank you. Bayadanki. Ke leboga kaofela. Ngiyabonga. Enkosi.
Welcome again to Break It Down podcast. How do you feel coming to the podcast multiple times, Dr. Maluse?
Well, I'm a Pan-Africanist, I'm a human, I'm pro-human. So whenever I come here, whenever my ancestors give the space to fight and to inspire, I'm always inspired, powerful, loving, very confrontational in terms of making Africa, making black people great again. So I'm always inspired. With all my corrections and with all my wrongs, I'm always inspired, always.
Wow. Thank you so much for honoring the invite once again. I really appreciate you. I know you're a busy a professional, especially now that you are Dr. Maluse Mngube.
Especially for Africa and humanity.
Yeah. There's a lot of work that you do, obviously, and what I'm trying to say is that I appreciate your time and making time actually to come here.
Absolutely.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm officially welcoming you to Break It Down podcast. My name is Elvis Mulifimos. Today, I'm joined again by a guest that actually blessed us in our first episode number 001, Dr. Maluse Mngube. Today, inviting you, I would love to chat about what has been happening between America and South Africa. We've seen President Donald Trump coming into power, and one of his first executive orders were related to South Africa, cutting aid, also going on social media, calling South Africa all sorts of names. We know, obviously, the misinformation or the information that arrived at his office or what made him to actually make these comments was also part of the contribution from organizations such as the Afriforum. But a lot of South Africans are confused and a lot of South Africans are worried in terms of when the US cuts a lot of aid like that, what's going to happen to US? What's going to happen to the South African people that are benefiting from those aids? But also, what is the future relationship of South Africa and the United States of America?
Anyway, what Donald Trump did is not a new thing. Actually, it's a double-edged sword for me. It's a good thing for South Africa, what happened.
A good thing?
Yeah, it's a good thing.
Okay.
It's a good thing that he cut the aid because to begin, first and foremost, it was not even aid. That is basically what they call aid dependency, or what they call entrapment. The whole aid that was with South Africa and Africa, it's supposed to oil. It's a trap to keep us dependent on them, because remember, the reserve currency of the world is the US dollar. And anything we were supposed to, even if we had cash money to buy from the United States or from Europe, they never wanted us to buy anything cash, to settle cash. How we become trapped? They give us aid to fulfill certain things, and anything we need to buy, we buy it through what we call a debt system. And they know that debt is not payable. Actually, Mr. Donald Trump and his forefathers, what they owe Africa is reparations. Actually, all that money, they must give it to us for free, because we already put in work. And when I mean work, it's not just physical work, it's intellectual work. Most of the things that America and Europe uses is the inventions of our forefathers, the money and the lives that our forefathers paid. And with their neocolonialism that is continuing in Sudan, that is continuing in East Africa, that is continuing in the DRC. So the sooner we wake up, Africans don't have to be worried. We have to be maximally prepared at what's coming. They are coming with more proxy wars in here in South Africa and into the rest of Africa. So we must be maximally prepared. This is only the beginning of the worst. The worst is still going to come. Definitely, that I can tell you. Mm-hmm.
When you say the debts are unpayable, what then do they get out of them actually, providing aid to countries such as South Africa? Knowing very well that they're indebting you for life.
It's very simple. Let me explain how it works.
Yes.
There's a system they call commodification.
Okay.
They commodify, and when they commodify, how they tag your commodities is through their currency, and the primary currency that tags all commodities of Africa, the first among equals, is the US dollar, followed by the British pound, the Japanese yen, and all that. All of them belong to the G7 countries. What do I mean by that? They tag it with the US dollar. It is the reserve currency of the world. If you look at all the central banks of the world and all of Africa, because they want our resources, right? It's not only the resources underground, and it's not only farmland. We are also resources to them. First, those who contributed as resources were our forefathers through slavery and through colonialism. Now, whenever they get our resources, they want to get them as primary resources. I want you to follow me very quickly. It's quite simple, right? They get them as primary resources, and they develop them over, or what they call, they beneficiate them in America and Europe, and they sell it to us. Now, to keep us trapped, when they sell it to us, our currencies are not convertible. They are not internationally convertible, meaning that they are not wanted. The South African rand is not wanted in the United States. It's not wanted in Israel. It's not wanted even in any other African country. None of the African countries, right? Right. So all the multinational corporations, they are from Europe and they are from America. Please follow me.
Yeah.
Right. Having said that, now, whether they manufacture their cars, whatever their cars are, I don't want to speak about their brand names, cars from America, from Europe, from Japan. Now, because we need plant and machinery, because when they came and colonized us from slavery, they put their multinational corporations here. Remember, they make our food, our farming equipment, etc., etc. Now, when we need to buy spare parts and all that plant and machinery from America and from Europe, right, what they want from us when we're paying them, they don't want the South African rand or the Zimbabwean dollar or the kwacha, because there's nothing they can do. It's not the reserve currency of the world. So that's why our central banks, when we export our food or when we export anything or our raw materials to America or to Europe, we must have gathered enough what we call forex. And I'm sure you know what forex is. Forex that you must have when we sell our resources to them. They pay us in US dollars. So we keep that. So anyone who wants to buy South African goods, like right now, if we sell South African goods to the DRC, to any country in Africa or anywhere, what our government wants, we want US dollars. Please follow. Because when we have to buy our oil from Iran and anywhere, Iran doesn't want our, what you call, our rand. doesn't want the Malawian currency. Why is that? Because it's not convertible. It's not a reserve currency. They want the US dollar. So every reserve bank or every central bank, the other name for reserve bank, keeps Forex. And that Forex, the one which is prime amongst others, is the US dollar. The US dollar is what? Internationally convertible. It underpins oil. It underpins everything else. That's why the United States is fighting hard for its life against de-dollarization. Hence, because now, if our currencies are not internationally convertible and we are forced to have American reserves, when we run short of reserves, remember our reserves, we get them by selling our products to America or any other country. We are not big at manufacturing. We're big at manufacturing. Our manufactured products, we can sell them to Africa, not to America, not to Europe. They have something much better than ours. So they, for their multinational corporations here, we buy their plant and machinery. But because if their plant machinery, for instance, costs $3 billion US, right? We don't have that money cash. They say, don't worry, you can buy it on a debt system, meaning that we will have to pay over 50 years. They want to keep us like that. Remember the first time when we wanted to buy ARVs, right? ARVs were very, very expensive. When we came out with an alternative that we can get them from India much cheaper, they took the South African government to court. But because of NGO pressure in South Africa, they relented and they forgot about the whole thing. They decided not to go ahead. So I hope I've explained myself quite clearly that our currencies as Africans are not convertible. They are not as convertible as the US dollar. They are not powerful because now it forces us to keep on in everything we sell. We must always be buying US dollars because it is the only currency we can buy oil. And remember, oil is the basis of all industry. Without oil, you can't do nothing because you got to have petrol to set up industry for children to go to school, to do anything. And once oil goes up, everything goes up. And South Africa doesn't have oil. We either get oil from the United States or we get it from Saudi Arabia or we get it from Iran. And all those countries that I've mentioned, they want the US dollar, the reserve currency. That's what we mean when we say the US reserve currency. That's why we are de-dollarizing because we do not want to be put into this dangerous matter. Right. So if you understand that we've been kept in a debt system, we are always forced, our reserve bank is always forced to have Forex. That's why even if you want to travel to Switzerland or to Mexico or anywhere in the world, when you get there or to Uganda, right, what they will accept is US dollars, meaning that by the time you leave South Africa, you must have applied through your commercial bank, whether it's Standard Bank or whatever bank, for American US dollars. So
cash.
Yes, they give you cash so that when you get to Uganda, you can be able to use your US dollars. They don't want your South African rands.
So if I'm in Uganda, I've got South African rands, I can't use them, then they will convert them to their own currency.
When you have them before you leave, you must convert your rands. You apply for Forex, what they call Forex. So when you're going to Uganda, let's say you're going to Uganda, you're going to Ethiopia, then you go to Canada. So before you leave, you apply for Forex. And they will give you US dollars. You can choose which one you want. They can give you US, British pound sterling, and yen. But the most powerful one, which is accepted across the board, is the US dollar right up to now. So before even you go to Uganda, so you can't get to Uganda with your rands and say, I want to use my rands. No. Even when you have your rands and you want to change them at the Ugandan banks, what they will be doing, they will be looking at its exchange rate according to the US dollar. How worth is your rand to the US dollar for them to give you the Ugandan currencies that you can use? So everything is pivoted on the US dollar. Hence, you have to understand what they mean by US reserve currency. That's what they mean. The whole global economy is premised on the US dollar. And out of that, that's why we cannot come out of the debt. So that's why when we're paying their debt, we don't pay their debt using our rands. What will they do with your rands? They're not interested. You pay them using the US currency. So that's why when we sell them our gold and our diamonds, when we pay them back, right? Before even they give us all the money, they will say you have your debt of 16 billion that you must settle. So before we pay you that, we're going to minus that. That's what happens. And we are kept in perennial debt.
So are you telling me that even if we arrive at a point where we say, okay, cool, because South Africa the apartheid government did receive reparations for colonization, right? But now we know that obviously that government was the same government that actually oppressed black people. So it almost like it's a group of people that received reparations, right? It's not necessarily the country that received reparations. So if we arrive at a state at a time where we say, okay, cool, Africa must now receive its whole reparations for everything that has taken place. Are you telling me these people have the option to say, from whatever amount that you think your reparations equals to, we will subtract the debt that you already owe us?
They can do that.
Is that a possibility?
Of course, we can do that. Reparations, look, it's another topic we can get to in one of your postcasts, and we can talk about it. Remember, when we put across what we want out of our reparations, for me, the reparations that I would put forward and the systems and terms and conditions, it's forever. There's no way they can be paid in 500 years and all that. For America to be what it is today, for it to have the atomic bomb and the nuclear bombs it has, is all the resources taken from Africa. Our ancestors' lives right up to today. Everything. So is Europe. So I don't understand people who are asking for once-off reparations. I have my own ideas that I would like to contribute and how those reparations have to be structured. Our governments must even be part and be shareholders into all companies that are American companies, that are Europe's companies, because they are built right up to today, from BlackRock to Vanguard and all the companies you can mention, to the Dutch East India company that started in Holland that came over here, right? We built on that. You can imagine the interest on that. There is no end to what we contributed. So my contribution is forever reparations. I think personally, it's very stupid to ask for reparations that are for 40 years, for 500 years and all that. No, this system of theirs, it's ongoing. Do you think what they did to Gaza, what you saw in real time right now, they cannot hide? Do you think those reparations should be paid for 500 years? Just to begin with the life of the people? Or do you believe those reparations are forever, what they did there? I'm asking you. Do you think they should be for 500 years? They should be for 200 years or for 100 years? What do you think? Because remember, once you put a time, there's the issue of inflation. There is the issue of inflation. So in terms of reparations, I would also want to contribute to terms and conditions, how inflation will be controlled and how it will be linked to our shares of those companies, how inflation will impact the value of our currencies and all that. Now, for you to be given 200,000 today and you are excited about it, 200,000 US dollars right now, with the way inflation is going on in America right now and with the declining America, 200,000, I can tell you in 5 years, in 3 years, it will be nothing. Do you understand? Or let's put it by hindsight. Imagine what 100 rands could buy in the 70s in South Africa. What is 100 rands now? Do you see what inflation does?
So even if it's a 500 years thing, actually is...
You do not know. You do not know what will happen there in future. So that's why your terms and conditions must be very smart. Right. So I believe with the lives of our forefathers, our children, dying in the DRC, in Sudan, everywhere, what's happening in Gaza, in all over the world, him telling us that he doesn't accept expropriation without compensation and all that, that chick in the tongue, that arrogance of his, that racist remark of his, it just goes to show that there's nothing different from him with his forefathers. Absolutely.
Donald Trump, for me, recently, his remarks are very worrying, and we've got other people as well in the game, people like Elon Musk, who we know that is one of the most influential people in the world. I mean, he owns one of the biggest social media platforms.
He's the richest man in the world.
He's the richest man in the world, right? But the way they are portraying this whole land expropriation act thing, there's a whole lot of misinformation. And for me, it makes me even question people like Rob Hersov, who has went to the Rubin Report, which is one of the podcasts that I loved. But now that I see the whole misinformation, even the whole propaganda that is just given media platforms and attention like that without necessarily consulting other groups.
I'll ask you a question.
And other parts of the population.
The guy you just gave an example, Rob Hersov, right? The money that he sits on top of, that makes him speak so loud and all that. I don't think it's just a question of his genius. You know that his forefathers were architects of apartheid, right? Do you know that?
Of course, yes.
So what's genius about him? So all his talks that he's doing is to protect stolen.
But I mean, doesn't he live in a new South Africa?
Sorry? What's new about South Africa? When the black majority, we still don't hold the commanding heights of the economy. Well, what's new about South Africa? There was never something new. We were played big time. For those who were serious revolutionaries, we were played. Yes, probably intentionally. I would say probably to a certain extent, I agree with the settlement of 1994 because I think it was strategic. We also got persuaded by African states because we did not have the capability and the wherewithal at that point in time. We did not have enough engineers governing people in government, how to run government and all that. So I think our leaders at that time took a conscious decision with no, after a certain time, right? After a certain time, we will make certain demands because we now have a certain know-how. That makes sense to me. But as much as we took that strategic decision, remember what the enemy was doing also. The enemy did not just sit. It was closing rank, right? Closing rank right up to now. Hence, they are showing you that they do not want to do this expropriation without compensation, meaning that the land that our ancestors Unkosi Hintsa, Unkosi Tswane, Unkosi Gungubele, Unkosi Bambata, Unkosi Dingiswayo. It was forcibly. There were wars. They resisted. They took the land forcibly. That is not funny. You know that, right?
There were people killed.
So now we want to right that historical injustice. Now they tell us about private property law, constitutional private property law, and they tell us about the rule of law. Or after you've stolen.
Where was the rule of law?
Or after you've killed our people. And it's the same thing they want to do to Gaza. And you had Donald Trump. We will own it. We'll move Palestinians to Jordan and we'll move them to Egypt. And we'll build a beautiful place.
Wait. This situation is very dangerous. What is happening right now in South Africa? And,
of course, it is dangerous.
And with the involvement of international relations and countries such as the USA, and we've got issues such as the Orania, that it has been a whole issue that is angering a lot of people in the country. Now we've got another problem, which is Afriforum, which is a lobby group kind of, for the minority.
There is a war coming to South Africa.
That's what I'm saying.
It is coming.
Are we looking at a proxy?
Of course,
some
definitely.
Sort of a proxy war?
Yes, the signals are there. I can tell you about them.
No ways.
Definitely. Remember one time, without consulting our intelligence as part of protocol, remember when the United States government, the embassy reported that there might be explosive or bombs somewhere in Sandton or one of the suburbs.
Yes,
right.
Yes.
So that type of information, you don't just blab about in public. You tell an intelligence organization and our government complained and said, but how could you do that? So all those are signals. And number two, they do not like our policy stance. For instance, we've always had military exercises with the Americans, with the British in terms of naval ships and all that. But when we started doing it with Russia and with China, they are not happy about it. But remember, we're a non-aligned sovereign state. We can do that. They do what they want. We can also do what we want.
What is this non-aligned thing? I don't understand it.
I'll explain it. Yeah. Non-aligned.
Before you used, for most people, it almost feels like, we can't take, we're undecisive.
No, it's very simple. Let me explain it. This comes from the time of after Second World War when there was the Cold War rivalry between the Soviet Union, which was Russia, then Soviet Union, and America, right? So people there was this rivalry and people were forced to choose, are you either pro-capitalist, pro-American, or you are Russian? And remember, the Russian and the Chinese supported Africa's liberation struggle.
Yes, yes.
Right. So even when it was that, even though we were seen to be pro them, but we did say we are non-aligned. We will work with whoever is progressive in the West and whoever is progressive in the... I think that was a smart move so that we're not seen to be choosing a camp. So whoever is progressive supports the movement of Africa. So what we are saying right now, why we're saying we're still non-aligned, yes, we are non-aligned because we're a sovereign state. You must understand what is a sovereign state. We are signatory to the United Nations Charter. Right? We are one of the 194 countries of the world. America is a signatory to most countries.
But is that working for us?
No. So,
I mean, as a country,
nothing 100% works for you in the world. You know what I mean? Nothing, because you have very hegemonic, powerful countries who always want to exert and push their own policies. And this is what is happening. Remember, South Africa, we are nowhere near to be as powerful as the United States of America, to be as powerful as Russia, to be as powerful as China. But we can we can position ourselves, so to speak, hence non-aligned, so that we can punch above our waist, our weight, so that we are able to exercise our sovereignty. And being sovereign means America don't tell us what to do. Russia don't tell us what to do. China don't tell us what to do. We will work with whoever we choose to work with. We have our own foreign policy. We have our own policies. But this is what we declare. But some powerful countries can force you, like what America is trying to force us. Right now, we've come up with a bill that has been enacted into law, the expropriation without compensation. And this is going to be done in stages. And this is not something new. Australia has something like that. Poland has something like that.
Even America.
Even America has something. There's nothing new. But look, the imperialists are smart. Donald Trump can want to play dumb and people think he was misinformed. No, he's well informed. Donald Trump, as the president, and any American president, before they take certain policy measures and make certain remarks, they're always informed by their intelligence desk. They know what is really going on. What they do not want, whatever imperialism stole from Africa, and when we want to write it and it becomes ours,
they don't want that.
They don't want that. Basically, this is what they're saying. So it's not a question of misinformation. Whether our president decides to send a delegation to go and speak to Trump and all that, they know exactly what is going on. Trump is a businessman. It's not only about Trump. This thing is an imperial agenda that has been going on from the first time when they unalived, when they murdered genocidally our ancestors. It's not something new. Donald Trump is just fulfilling what his ancestors have been doing. There's nothing new. Yeah. You must understand. You must understand that Donald Trump is an immigrant. America is ruled by immigrants. The real natives of America, they were done away with. Just like you saw in Gaza, like you see in the DRC. You know that, definitely, don't you? The Donald Trumps, the Joe Bidens, all those are immigrants. But today they call themselves native. They call themselves Americans. But who were there before them?
So something like that, I mean, from a South African perspective, it would look even more obvious, to have, the people that came in this land and found people in this land. And then at the end of the day, they are now declaring themselves as the natives of this land. I mean, we have those kind of narratives.
Of course, that's how they start.
Yeah.
After the Second World War, the Jews were put into the land of Palestine, the government of Palestine, by the British government. But now, look what's happening to Palestinians. They're being made strangers in their own land. So I want to warn Africans. That's why the other time when Paul Kagame of Rwanda wanted to take certain refugees, he had a deal with England. Thousands of refugees to take them to Rwanda, and they were paying him a handsome amount of money. Many Africans.
Refugees from?
They were coming from Afghanistan and many other areas.
Yeah.
Right? People who were refugees in England. So they made a deal with Kagame so that he must take those refugees and they must settle in Rwanda. So some of us had concerns. How do you know those people who are being dumped there, they are not trained people? They're not trained
They're not
terrorists.
part of the military.
How do we know they're
Yeah.
not part of the military intelligence and all that? How do we know what is their long-term agenda? The next thing they'll be saying, parts of Congo, they are theirs. They've been there for 50, 60 years. Remember, they play a medium to long-term game range.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, this is the lesson you must learn from the Palestinian issue, right? So Africans must be very, very careful. This whole rivalry you're seeing in DRC, whatever is happening, South Africans must be very careful. South Africans have been earmarked, and they are going to put up a proxy war. That is what my theoretical analysis tell me. I want South Africans to be very, very careful. We are not an exception. This thing you hear about Orania, this thing you hear about Western Cape seceding, we must have our own culture and all that. This thing you hear people pronouncing that they're the natives of what you call, they're the natives of South Africa, when they know very well they came from Holland. And they repeatedly tell a lie until it becomes a truth. And we think this is a game. That's why Africans must unite. This is happening against the bedrock of what is happening to the white supremacist world. It is declining because of competition they're getting from China and from Russia, primarily from China. China has become a threat, an existential threat to the white world. So many things are going to happen. And proxy wars are already here in Africa. You can see what is happening in Sudan. People are not speaking about Sudan.
Yeah.
And I would love you people to expose, get Sudanese to come here on your podcast and speak exactly what's happening in Sudan. Please do that. What's happening in the DRC? Why is the African Union, why can't the African Union be very authoritative what's happening between DRC and Kagame, Rwanda and all that, and find a solution? It's because the superpowers are involved. It's because America and Europe are involved in what is happening in the DRC.
I saw, going to DRC, I saw a post that President Tshisekedi somehow was asking for help from the US militarily to say, you need to come and assist us to fight these people. But in exchange of that, I don't know whether it's true or not. The social media stuff, sometimes it's just people.
I don't know about the veracity of that, but from the time they took over, from that demon, remember that demon from Belgium, who murdered over 20 million Congolese. Some people call him a king. To me, he's not a king. He's a demon, the demon Leopold. Right? From that time until when they assassinated, the CIA's assassinated, when they killed and chopped his body, Patrice Lumumba, the first prime minister of Congo, there's never been peace. There's never. Even Kwame Nkrumah tried his best to help Patrice Lumumba, right? Because the DRC is very strategic. It's very strategic to the unification of Africa. And unify we must. There's intelligent ways we can unify. It's not just as simply talked about, people thinking it's just the opening of borders and all that. But Africans only have themselves. You cannot operate, when you compare South Africa's economy to American economy, it's nothing. It's a pittance. It's nothing. When you compare South Africa's economy to the Chinese economy, it's nothing. It's a pittance. And I'm repeating. I want my people to know, South African people to know.
Yeah.
If you are going into business negotiations as South Africa and you're engaging China or you're engaging America, because those are the drivers of the global economy.
Yeah.
South Africa's economy is nothing. It's a pittance. Because we are educated, if we complement each other as Africans, and our deal making is monolithic and it's one, we make much more headway that way
than individually.
What do you think Lesotho? Do you think Malawi? Do you think Zimbabwe? Do you think Egypt can engage America on an individual basis seriously? Do you think South Africa can engage America seriously? I will tell you who can engage America seriously in terms of business. We can all see it. I want you to guess who is engaging America seriously in terms of business. Who?
You mean in the African continent?
No.
Globally.
Global. Who?
That's China.
China.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about.
Sure. Yeah.
Because China, it's about a $20 trillion economy. America is about $28 trillion economy. But when we come to, there's an economic metric they call purchasing power parity. China is much more powerful than America.
So they can sit at the table and have...
Even America, you see, America started with tariff, China hit with tariff. America hit with tariffs, China hit with tariff.
Yeah.
And Xi Jinping, I think yesterday, he made a statement. He says, we are prepared for any type of war, trade war, tariff war, or any type of war America thinks of. We are ready for them. Can South Africa make?
No ways.
We can't. Can Lesotho make the same statement? Can Malawi make the same statement? Can Zimbabwe make the same statement? Can Angola make the same statement? Can Togo make the same statement? So we must emulate China. China became a superpower in 40 years. They were as poor as us. So I'm challenging all African scholars and ordinary Africans. Yes, we have our differences here and there. But there's wars that are coming to Africa. And the sooner we unite intelligently, and I'm talking intelligently because we are going to sit down, technically how we're going to unite, the sooner we do that, we'll be running like headless chickens, killing each other like headless chickens, like what's happening in the DRC right now.
Let's bring it back home to South Africa. I saw a reporting about President Mbeki, that he was calling for some sort of a CODESA 2.0 kind of, named in a different way. Like, South Africa needs like more unified, engagement to address, I guess, the injustices of the past. That for me is CODESA 2.0. Do you think, I know there's a lot going on right now, but do you think because the whole 1994 settlement, we've seen the results of that? We've seen that, like you were saying, it was an unfair kind of settlement. Do you think initially, with all of the things that are unfolding right now, the government trying to address the injustices of the past, the resistance from the other group, the involvement of international relations and international community, do you think South Africa, there's a possibility that South Africa can go to some sort of a formal sit-down, renegotiation, that we can also term CODESA 2.0?
There's nothing wrong with that. And with respect to ex-President Mbeki, there's nothing wrong for him to suggest that. But Mr. Mbeki played his part. So did Zuma. So did President Kgalema Motlanthe. All of them played their part. But the energy and the articulation of the present times with the statement that Trump belittling Africans when he calls us shithole countries, when he belittles Lesotho, when he talks about our expropriation, which we've put our intellect to as nothing, when he belittles the people of Palestinians who are our comrades in struggle, right? Historically, we've been with the Palestinians for years. And he says he's going to open up a Riviera there. I want to tell the youth of South Africa, and Africa by extension, right? Our veterans like Mbeki and Comrade Zuma and Kgalema and all of them, with respect, they've played their part. But they do not have the same urgency. They do not have the same energy. And they do not have the same sense of calculation of what has to be done right now. This is a historical calling for people like you, Elvis, and for all those who are behind the cameras taking this podcast, who are youth who are doing this. It's up to you to energize this. Right, you saw a genocide happening live. Hence, South Africa has opened up a case of genocide at the International Court of Justice, which is part of the United Nations, and also the International Criminal Court. This is serious business, right? So, from a soft power type of moves, Mbeki is right. But the youth, I urge you, you have to be more aggressive. Mr. Mbeki is not going to do everything for you. He's not, because you are the ones who are living in the squatter camps. You are the ones who have your NEFSAS that comes late, year in, year out. You are the ones with your degrees who do not have jobs, right? Our veterans, they get their monies, they get their retirement monies. As far as I'm concerned, with respect, they played their part. And they are much older and they are rested. You, the youth, when NEFSAS is not being paid, when you're staying in a squatter camp, when you're staying at home for 10 years with your master's degree and there's nothing, and even when you're given a job, it's piecemeal type of solution, internship or what we call casualized type of job. You get a contracted job. You're not commanding the commanding heights. The reason why you got educated is to be unapologetic about being black, Elvis, and getting control of your country, the commanding heights, not certain interests controlling your economy. That's what your education must have empowered you to do, unless it disempowered you and you can't think outside the indoctrination that was given to you at the university. So with respect to Mr. Mbeki, let those talks go ahead. But I want the youth to be much more aggressive. Because Mr. Mbeki is in his 80s, just like all of them.
Yeah, he's old. I mean,
Yeah.
And he
old.
had his run, as you were saying.
Yes, they
he
played
had his
their
chance,
part, and we respect that.
That was almost like two terms.
Yes,
Yeah.
they've played their part. But these people, I've given an example, they've just committed genocide in front of our eyes. And they're even arrogant that you will not take us to ICC and to ICJ. And they've actually put sanctions on the workers of ICJ and ICC. That who dare are you to call us to come to ICC and ICJ?
But
basically what they're saying, we are above the law.
What kind of a law? Yeah, what kind of a law is that?
No.
Only applies.
But that's one thing I want you to understand.
Yeah.
The youth about imperialists. Yes.
Yeah.
Imperialists, they're devilishly smart. It doesn't mean that they don't understand. They understand. But if they can't beat you at the negotiation table, they do what they've done to Gaza. They do what they've done to Sudan, to you. What they did to us when they took over. And they put constitutionally apartheid to say blacks will go this way and whites will go this way and will control everything. So the youth, I am telling you once again, there is proxy wars coming to South Africa and Africa. They're already there. It's going to get worse. Do you think these jobs that have been shed since the time of President Mbeki, are you telling me these jobs are going to be replaced when they are punting artificial intelligence and automation? Do you know how automation right now in South Africa, we can do a program, how many jobs it has lost for the people? Look, there's nothing wrong with technology. This speaker I'm speaking through, it's technology. But you must always do a cost-benefit analysis. If you're going to be putting technology that is going to get 10,000 people retrenched, and it takes up the profits and the dividends of the few owners who are historically from America and from Europe, we don't want that type of technology. We got to be smarter than that.
Yeah.
So don't just be blinded and be indoctrinated and be excited. Oh, technology does this for us. You must look at the downside of technology. If that technology is going to replace 10,000 families, and then we're going to be having social issues of crime, people going to jail and et cetera, we don't need that type of a technology. Sometimes we can selectively put it in another area. For instance, we can make it have military applications, not for that technology to replace the conventional, the civilian applications. Do you follow what I'm saying? So let's say, for instance, you go into a government setting, or you go into a mall whereby this big supermarket used to have like people, it used to have, let's say, 100 people at the till, right? Because they've put certain technology where people tap and do that and do that. Those people were 100. Us as Africans here in South Africa, we're not just 100 people. We feed families, right?
It's 100 families.
Right. Now, out of that 100, they get rid of 85 and they retain 15. Because now everybody, when they pick up things from the shop, they just go put their card on that computer without talking to anybody and all that. Do we need that type of technology? Do you see how many people it has replaced? Do you see how many mothers cannot pay for registration fees for their child because of that technology? We do not. How does it improve the quality of life? These are the things we should be asking. Anything that is greater than AI, it's us. Human life is of a marvel greater than what they're indoctrinating you to believe. But certain technologies, yes, they can be in the military.
Yeah.
Because strategically, we must be there to defend our countries. But certain technology, we must cleverly debate. We must debate. And they must come into civilian life. We must not just take any type of technology to be replacing hundreds and thousands of our people. That is not right. Just to benefit the few.
Yeah.
Even in mining, for instance, they will bring certain machinery whereby there used to be 30,000 miners, right? And because of that machinery, 20,000 have to be retrenched. When they retrench, do you know what happens to the dividends of the shareholders and their profits? They go up. That's how billionaires are made. Billionaires are made not because these people are smart, it's because they sacrifice the black body. And you people think it's smart. And some of our leaders were selling us out. You believe their story. But no, it's for efficiency and all. There's no efficiency. It's the disconstruction and the dying of the black family. Why would you get rid of 20,000? Why would you get rid of 20,000 miners? For what? And look at what happens to the shareholders, to the few shareholders of those mining houses. They become billionaires and they tell you what to do. And at the end of the day, they give you 350 every month. We are a joke.
Yeah, this is
So anything we do, we must apply our intelligence.
Yeah.
And I would want to see your generation. You must not even be intimidated by some of our leaders who've been bought over. Your generation, anything you don't know, you learn. You must sit in the Reserve Bank. You must sit in the Reserve Bank. You must sit in all the commercial banks, everywhere, the commanding heights of the economy. And you must be committed enough to learn what's going on in there so that all decisions that are made, they benefit our people. And we must not be apologetic to say black majority. Black majority. I will say it again, to benefit the black majority. Because what has been happening from 1994 up to now, the black majority hasn't benefited. It's only the few middle class.
True.
So people cannot tell us to be patient. No, we cannot be patient anymore. And I don't want people like you, Elvis, to be patient.
Yeah.
You cannot afford to be patient. I hear what my respectable leader, Mr. Mbeki, is saying. But that will not do for the 21st century. Especially
on the ground.
Especially with an America that is declining.
Dr. Malusi, can you please make a commitment that we can continue this session once again? Because this is a very important. I know there's a whole lot of things that are going to unfold between now and, in the next couple of months, maybe in the next year as well, with this whole thing. Because even what is happening right now is not something that happened overnight. It's something that has been building up. Eventually we arrive where we are. But for the interest of time, I think we have came to the end of our session. But I would love for you to actually come back again and we look at how best we can actually break down this conversation further.
Thank you very much to all the listeners and viewers. I want any South African to challenge me that there will never, ever be a war here in South Africa in the next 100 years. And they must give me those guarantees, evidence-based. I want to say in not more than 20 years, there will be a war in this country. There will be a rise. And black majority prepare for that, especially the youth. Have the mental power, intellectual power, spiritual power, and unite with all Africans because it is coming. You are the ones who have not been working since 1994. Even the ones who are working, they are working according to a credit-based economy that benefits white monopoly global capital, not that is supposed to entrench our commanding heights of the economy to be controlled by black people. So as much as Mr. Mbeki is there and Zuma is there and all that, they are leaving us a poisoned chalice. And what I mean, a poisoned chalice, they are leaving us without even controlling the commanding heights of our economy. So I will debate anyone, if you can arrange that, who will say there will never be a war that is coming here. There is a racial war that is coming here. War. It's not only a racial war, it's also a class war. for those who are dispossessed, who are not working, who have not been working, and who are also educated. It is coming. It cannot carry on like this. It cannot. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our episode. And if this is your very first time watching this content and you're wondering, what is this content that is great? What is this podcast that I just came across? The name of my podcast is Break It Down with Elvis Mulifimov. And in this podcast, we discuss topics like this: politics, religion, worldviews. We also discuss spirituality, self-mastery, and philosophy. In the previous episode that we recorded today, I was with P.O. We also do the life of arts and culture. So you would also love that episode, of course, that's coming. I wish to see you on the next one, but I also wish for you to actually subscribe to this channel so that we can grow. If you can, and if you love the content, you can also become a paying member. You can, support our channel by donating whatever amount that you feel, works for you, so that we can grow and be able to not cut, episodes short that like we did today. We have enough time, we have enough resources to break down conversations like this. Dr. Malusi Mngube, thank you so much. See you on the next one.
Thank you, my son. You are in charge of the revolution, the youth. It's up to you. It's coming. It's already here.
Cheers.